Chaim, everyone, l'chaim. Chaim l'bracha. We begin today a new Hasidic discourse in preparation for Gimel Tammuz. Gimel Tammuz being the day 30 years ago that physically the Rebbe left this world. But we'll call it Gimel Tammuz. So, saying a discourse now, we're learning a discourse that was said 1964 by the Rebbe on Gimel Tammuz. And Gimel Tammuz has a special day in the Jewish calendar, going way back in history. Gimel Tammuz is the day that Joshua made the sun stand still while waging battle to give them Jewish people more time to wage battle during daylight. The sun didn't set on Gimel Tammuz, which metaphorically says a lot. Also, Gimel Tammuz in 1927, when the previous Rebbe was put into prison by the communists. Initially, he had a death sentence. It was commuted on Gimel Tammuz, the 3rd of Tammuz, to 10 years of harsh labor. And on this day, on the train going to Kostroma, he shared a few words with his Chassidim. In the end, he was released 9 days later on the 12th, 13th of Tammuz, but initially on the 3rd of Tammuz was a commuted decree, a death sentence to harsh labor in the Gulag. So, and this mimer is based on some of the words that he said, he shared with his Chassidim on his way to exile. So, l'chaim. Quoting words from Book of Kings, He Hashem Elokeinu imanu. Maybe shall it be that Hashem, our God, will be with us. Kasher haya imavisenu, as he was with our forefathers. Al yazvenu, he shouldn't leave us, ve'al yichenu, and shouldn't forsake us. Those are the words. It's known, the words that the Rebbe calls him the Bala Geula, the one who was redeemed, because he was redeemed from a death sentence. That he said these words on Gimel Tammuz in 1927. And he said in Yiddish, "Mebeten by Hashem Yisborach." I'm going to say in Yiddish and translate. We request by God, blessed be He. Yi Hashem Elokeinu imanu. Kasher yamim avasinu yazinu v'yichenu. As Hashem Yisborach, he quotes the verse that we just quoted. Zol Zayin Mituns, that he should be with us. Unaved Zayin Mituns, and he will be with us, as he was with our forefathers. So we need to understand, those are the words that we're going to base ourselves on. So we need to understand there's a request here and a certainty that God should be with us and he will be with us, which are, of course, are complete opposites. They're complete opposites. Even though we are requesting from God, that he should be with us and he will be with us, right? And the request means that we're asking not only that he should be, but he will be. Now, even though this word yehi in Hebrew means shall and will, means a request and a certainty, yet they are different understandings that are being included as one. So we need to understand that, and that requesting the two things. I guess maybe in some other words, if you're requesting that God will be with us, so then you don't need to request. And even that, what does it mean that what's the request? That he will be? That he should be, perhaps, just to break this down maybe a little more. And if you're making a request that he will be, then that includes a request that he should be, seemingly. In any case, they're like different ideas. How do we understand them? He continued the previous Rebbe, 1927, in his words, is that God should be and shall be with us as he was with our forefathers. And he said, as a gam mir zayin doch nit gleich zu Abesinu. Even though, he said, translated from the Yiddish, that we are not comparable to our forefathers, those that came before us. We can't compare ourselves to them. So, Yesh Lemer. So the Rebbe says we could say the following: that the source for the explanation is that which is found in the Midrash. The Midrash says the Shloimeh, King Solomon, he said before God, a king that hires workers and they do their job well, and he gives them their reward, what kind of praise is there for such a king? They did the job, they did the work, they got paid. When is the king truly praiseworthy? Is that when he hires not good workers and they don't do the job properly, and yet he gives them their reward. This is a great, this is a good, a wonderful good thing that the king does. So similarly, when we say Hashem Elokeinu, that he should be with us as he was with our predecessors, right? In other words, they were good workers, our predecessors, and we're not good workers, right? Yet God should be with us, meaning give us a reward. That would be the medrash, and the metaphor that might explain, that's the source for this idea. Right. The previous Rebbe is asking, God should be with us, will be with us, as he was with our predecessors. Our predecessors were good workers, and God was, but we're not such good workers. So nonetheless, right, that's the greatness of God. He's still going to be with us, still going to pay us, even though we didn't do such a good job, right? And he explains, the previous Rebbe, in what way was it that they were greater, that they were the good workers? We're not such good workers, you know, because how could we compare ourselves to our predecessors that they truly sacrificed, literally, in actuality, not just, what do we sacrifice? That, we didn't have an ice cream. They sacrificed their very lives. We sacrifice, what do we sacrifice in comparison? Right? They sacrifice for Torah and mitzvahs in a very literal way. Right? Last 1,000 years, Jews have been kicked out of 100 countries. What did they sacrifice for being a Jew and to holding up Torah and mitzvahs? It was great. So the Rebbe says, oh, we need to understand that this sicha that the previous Rebbe said, 1927, the train station on the way to exile, to Kostroma was the place he was going, right? And this was to exile before he was imprisoned with a death sentence that hung over him. It was now commuted, but still a death sentence was. And why did he have all of this? Why was this uh, um, imposed upon him? Why was this put upon him? Why did he go through this? Well, because of his self-sacrifice for Torah and mitzvahs, right? In a very literal way. They saw him as a threat, keeping Judaism alive under the communist regime. They wanted to eradicate religion, eradicate God. And the previous Rebbe went and did everything that he could to keep Yiddishkeit Torah mitzvahs alive. So how's he making this statement that we can't compare ourselves to our predecessors, to the generations before us and their self-sacrifice? What do you mean? Look at the self-sacrifice he's going through. And yet he says we can't compare our self-sacrifice to theirs. How do we understand that? So seemingly, says the Rebbe, seemingly, you might be able to say that this request of his, that God should be with us as he was with our predecessors, isn't just about him. Not, remember, he's the Rebbe. So who's he talking about when he talks? He's talking about all of Klal Israel, the entirety of the Jewish people, which includes those that all they call themselves is a Jew, sort of like a nickname, shall we say. For me, when I call myself a Jew, it reverberates through my entire being that when I say that, when I sense it, I think about it. right? Because it's an expression of every fiber of my being that I'm a Jew. But there are Jews who, to them, it's just an accident of birth, whether they're proud of it or not proud of it. But it just happens to be. And it's just a name. It's not an identity of who they are through and through. And guess what? Our Rebbe includes that person. Therefore, as a result of that, when he's saying this statement, that we cannot compare ourselves to the sacrifice in actuality to our predecessors, it's including such an individual. It says the Rebbe, this is not a sufficient explanation. Why? Because as the words in Yiddish are, mir seinen doch nicht gleich zu Avosseinu. Mir means we are not, and we includes, the individual says it. It includes the previous Rebbe himself. If he would say Klal Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, whatever term, including the Jew, saying the Jewish people. So maybe he's excluding himself. So there was a way that he could say it. That would be speaking about the generality of the Jewish people, but he didn't do that. He said, Mir seinen doch nicht gleich. We. So he's very much including himself. And you can't say that he included himself only in a way of humility. In other words, there is something to compare, right? And he's, out of humility, really, because humility is only when there's something that you have um, you're capable of this thing, but you're humbly saying that it's beyond you. That's right. But if it's something to begin with that is way beyond you, it's like, I humbly tell you, like if I were to say, I humbly tell you that um, uh, I'm not versed in all of, you know, I'm not versed in every word of the Torah. Well, that's not humility. It's not something that is, something close to me. I should be well versed in the entire Torah, right? Humility means something that could be something So I humbly tell you that, I need to learn Tanya a lot more. Oh, because I do learn a lot of it. So I need, there's so much more that I don't really know. So that could come from humility, but something that is incomparably beyond you, that's not humility. So here we're saying that we can't be comparable to, right? We're not comparable to our predecessors, is the words that he said, but he is comparable. So you can't say that out of humility. So it must be something else. Well, all right. At least we got the first ois, the first um, chapter. And we'll continue. Okay. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you soon. Chumash and Rashi.